Hi, I'm Heather from Heather Handmade, and today I'm going to teach you how to sew on a patch. Please like this video and follow my channel for lots of sewing projects. So you can use patches to just place it on a bag for decoration, but you can also use patches. You can also use patches to cover up holes or where the fabric is starting to thin. So in this video, I show you how to do 3 different kinds of patches. One is on a pair of jeans, and this is to patch a hole, or if you want to add something interesting, you can, put bright colored fabric on. I also teach you how to put a patch on a little zipper pouch, but this is a really good example of sewing a patch on a denim jacket or a military jacket, a canvas jacket, because you kind of have to maneuver the bag as you sew, but you're only sewing through the patch and one layer of fabric. The last patch I teach you how to do is just a patch on a backpack. You have to be careful of pockets and zippers and worry about lining, so there's multiple layers of fabric. So I explain that when we are doing the backpack patch. You can buy patches on your vacations or from small businesses that you love and then sew them onto your bag, backpack, jackets, jeans, anything like that. And it's a great way to express yourself, and it's really easy to sew a patch on because you're essentially putting it on and then sewing around it and then you are done. So it's a great beginner sewing project to get you used to sewing through thicker fabrics and sewing around curves and maybe points or edges. I'm going to start by sewing this rose patch onto this little pouch. So this is a great example of how to do it for a jacket, a bag, anything like that, because this is kind of a canvas fabric. It's a little bit thicker, which you would see in a denim jacket or a canvas jacket. You'd also see this on a tote bag. So the first thing I like to do is I like to use Elmer's glue, and this is the best way to get your patch to stay in place while you're sewing without using pins, because pins have a really hard time going through a thick embroidered patch. The glue is not permanent and it washes out in the wash. It's really only to hold the patch in place while you sew. So I'm going to add some glue to the back of the patch. You can see I'm using the purple glue, but it dries clear or white, so it won't show in the end. Then I'm placing my patch in the center where I want it to be. And then you kind of want to hold it in place. Maybe smear some of that glue that's coming out the edges. You kind of want to hold it in place so it will dry. And this is not a super secure way. Pins technically are more secure than using glue, but pins really just have a hard time going through all of these, thick layers. So the glue is better. You just have to kind of be careful as you handle it and hold it so that it doesn't, start to peel off or adjust. So I'm just gonna wait here for it to dry. Now that this is mostly dry, I am going to stitch with my machine this patch. And what you're going to do is you're going to be stitching all the way around all the edges. So look for what color is the most apparent around the edges. And this one, usually when you have a patch, you have like an embroidered edge, and that's the color I will choose. This one kind of is switching between white and green. So I'm actually going to use white because it's a white base, and it will show up a little bit on this green and red areas, but I think it will blend in well enough because the background is white. It gets a little tricky sewing when there's a lot of shapes along the edge, so that makes it slower as you sew, but it's possible to sew it on. It just takes a little bit longer. Once you're done sewing, trim any threads and you are done. You have sewn the patch on. So I'm going to sew this name tag Heather onto this backpack. So when you're doing a backpack, you've got to figure out where you actually want the patch to be. So if you want your patch to be, up here, you've got to be careful of any pockets. So there's actually a pocket right here. So either I would have to move the pocket out of the way, or I would have to put it on the side. A lot of times patches are put right on this outer pocket, and there are no pockets right here. So I'm going to plan on putting it in the center right here. So the first thing I do is I take my glue and I'm going to put glue on the back of this patch. Then I'm going to take this patch carefully and I'm going to place it where I want it to be. And then I'm going to hold it in place while the glue dries. So, now that this is kind of glued on, I'm going to decide what color I'm going to use. So I can either do white and only sew on the white section, or I could do this kind of royal blue, but then I have to make sure I'm sewing right on this embroidered section. So I'm going to do blue if I have the right color and sew around the edge, so then it will be a little more attached. If you're doing something that has lining, you're going to make sure that the lining is not pushed up really high or pulled down or something. You want to make it so that the lining is in the right place, so that when you sew through the layers, you're not creating a problem with the lining in the back. Once you have the patch sewn on, you can trim any threads. Make sure, check to see if there's any problems with the lining, if there's tucks, or if it's pulled wrong, you might have to unstitch it and do it again. You can see I didn't have the exact right blue. I did have a navy blue, and you can see it a little bit if you're looking really close around the edge, but it's really, it's not that noticeable. Now, I have already cut out a rectangle of denim fabric, and I have finished the edges with a serger, but you can also finish with a zigzag stitch. It doesn't really matter. So this is the patch I'm going to use to cover. When you're creating your patch, you want it to be at least 1 inch bigger than your hole on all sides. Now this is on a skinny leg of a jean, and you can't get your sewing machine in here to sew. So I'm going to actually open the side seam a little bit, and that way we'll be able to sew around the patch once we've glued it on. So now I'm going to take my glue and my patch, and make sure that you're not going to like glue through the hole to the back of the leg, so you kind of have to be careful as you're going. But I'm gonna put some glue on this patch. And then I'm going to glue the patch right over the hole. So now that this is dry and glued on, I'm going to sew around the edge of the patch, but I'm going to use like a navy color because I want it to match the patch so it kind of blends in. If you want, you can add a colorful stitch, you can add embroidery, anything to kind of make it stand out. It's really what you want the patch to look like when it's done. Now that the patch is sewn all the way on, you can trim your threads, and then we're going to need to turn this leg right side out. And we're going to need to close this seam where we opened it up. And that is how you sew a patch on in 3 different ways. I can't wait to see the patches that you sew on. Please share them with me on social media. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you have a wonderful day.